I woke to smoke filling my bedroom at 2:43 a.m. Racing to my window, I discovered fresh nails driven through the frame into the wall. My parents' voices drifted from downstairs, calm and unhurried. I pounded on the glass as flames licked under my door. Through the smoke, I saw my father's truck blocking the driveway, positioned perfectly to prevent fire trucks from reaching the house. My mother's garden hose lay cut in pieces across the lawn. 3 weeks before that terrifying night, everything in my life changed with a single piece of misdelivered mail. I was sorting through the day's delivery when I noticed an envelope from Protective Life Insurance Company addressed to my parents, Catherine and Thomas Walsh. The corner was torn and curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a policy document that made my blood run cold. $1 million life insurance policy with my name on it, Vane Walsh, taken out when I turned 18. I was 26 now, which meant they'd been paying premiums for 8 years without ever mentioning it. The beneficiaries were listed clearly Catherine Walsh and Thomas Walsh, with a special clause highlighted in yellow marker, indicating double payout for accidental death. My hands trembled as I photographed every page with my phone. This wasn't normal. Parents didn't secretly insure their adult children for such massive amounts. The monthly premium was $800, a significant sum for my parents, who constantly complained about money. That evening at dinner, I decided to confront them. My mother was serving her famous pot roast, my father reading his tablet at the table like always. I placed the envelope between them. "This came today," I said, watching their faces carefully. My mother's fork paused midway to her mouth. My father's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. They exchanged a quick glance before my mother set down her fork with practiced calm. "Oh, it's just prudent financial planning, sweetheart." Catherine said, her voice honey-sweet as always. "All responsible parents do this." $1 million, I pressed, with double indemnity for accidental death. Thomas folded his tablet cover with deliberate slowness. "Insurance is about preparing for worst-case scenarios, Vane. Would you rather we be financially ruined if something happened to you? But you never told me about it." "Because young people worry unnecessarily about these things," my mother interjected. "We didn't want to burden you with morbid thoughts." Their explanations sounded rehearsed. I noticed how my mother's fingers drummed against the table her tell when she was nervous. My father kept glancing at the policy document like he wanted to snatch it away. "How can you even afford $800 a month?" I asked. "We manage," Thomas said curtly. "Your mother's very good with budgets." The conversation ended there, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. That night, I heard them talking in hushed tones through my bedroom wall. I pressed my ear against it, catching fragments. "She knows too much now," my mother's voice. "We stick to the timeline," my father responded. "Nothing changes." I started documenting everything after that. I downloaded a voice recording app, keeping my phone hidden in my pocket during conversations. Their behavior shifted subtly. They began asking strange questions about my health, whether I'd been sleeping well, if I ever took anything to help me sleep. "You look tired, honey," my mother would say, studying my face with unusual intensity. "Maybe you should try some melatonin. I bought some at the pharmacy." "I sleep fine." I'd respond, though, in truth I'd barely slept since finding that policy. My father suddenly became interested in my work schedule at the marketing firm downtown. "What time do you usually leave the office? Do you ever work late? Does anyone walk with you to your car?" One morning, I found them in my room installing new smoke detectors. My mother held a ladder while my father worked on the ceiling. The old ones were recalled. Catherine explained when I demanded to know what they were doing. "Faulty sensors. We want you to be safe." But I noticed the old detectors looked perfectly functional in the trash. The new ones had a small red light that blinked every few seconds. When I researched the model number online, I couldn't find any record of it existing. My paranoia grew with each passing day. I started taking photos of everything: my room, my car, even my food before eating it. I backed up everything to a cloud account they didn't know about using a friend's email address. A week after the insurance discovery, my mother suggested I get a checkup. "When was your last physical sweetheart? It's important to stay on top of your health." I'm fine, I insisted. But you've been looking pale, and you barely touched dinner last night. I'd stopped eating their cooking, claiming I was trying a new diet. In reality, I'd been buying my own food-keeping protein bars and sealed water bottles hidden in my room. The house felt different now, like a cage, slowly tightening around me. Every creak in the night made me bolt upright. Every concerned look from my parents felt like a threat. I started researching accidental death statistics, finding that house fires were one of the most common causes. 3 days before the fire, my father brought home a space heater, claiming my room seemed cold. I refused it, saying I preferred blankets. His face darkened in a way I'd never seen before. "We're just trying to take care of you, Vane," he said, his voice carrying an edge that made my skin crawl. I knew then that whatever they were planning was coming soon. I just didn't know how soon or how thoroughly they'd prepared for it. 2 weeks before the fire, a certified letter arrived that would accelerate my parents' timeline in ways I couldn't have imagined. I was homesick from work with a genuine cold when the doorbell rang. The postal worker required a signature, and since my parents were both at work, I signed for it myself. The return address was from Hartley & Associates estate planning attorneys in Burlington, Vermont. The letter was addressed to me specifically, not the household. My hands shook as I opened it in the privacy of my room. "Dear Ms. Vane Walsh," it began. "We regret to inform you of the passing of your grandmother, Eleanor Marie Fitzgerald, on October 15th. As specified in her last will and testament, you are the sole beneficiary of her entire estate." I had to read it 3 times before the words sank in. My grandmother, Eleanor, who my parents told me died when I was 16, had actually been alive all these years. The letter detailed an estate worth approximately $3 million, including a house in Vermont investment accounts and a collection of valuable antiques. The most shocking part came in the second paragraph. Mrs. Fitzgerald's will specifically states that under no circumstances are Catherine Walsh or Thomas Walsh to receive any portion of this inheritance, citing past transgressions and unforgivable actions as her reasoning. A sticky note was attached to the second page, written in shaky handwriting. "My dear Vane, I'm sorry for the years of silence. Your parents told me you wanted nothing to do with me, but I never believed them. I've waited, hoping you'd reach out. Since that day never came, I'm ensuring you'll have the freedom I couldn't give you in life. Use this well. Question everything. Love, Grandma Eleanor." I was still processing this revelation when I heard a car in the driveway. My parents were home early. I quickly hid the letter under my mattress, but I wasn't fast enough. They must have seen the certified mail slip in the mailbox. "Vane," my mother called up the stairs. "Did something come for you today?" I tried to sound casual as I came down. "Just some work stuff." My father stood by the door, still in his construction company uniform. The mail carrier said it required a signature. Must be important work stuff. "It's a contract revision." I lied. "Nothing interesting." My mother's eyes narrowed. "Can we see it? We might be able to help review it." "I already handled it," I said, moving toward the kitchen. "I'm making tea. Want some—" That's when my mother grabbed my arm, her manicured nails digging in. "Don't lie to us, Vane. We know it was from lawyers. What are you hiding?" "Let go," I said, trying to pull away. "Not until you tell us the truth." Her grip tightened. "Catherine," my father warned, but she ignored him. "What did those lawyers want? Are you in trouble? Are you suing someone? Are you being sued?" "It's none of your business," I snapped, finally yanking my arm free. The slap came so fast I didn't see it. My mother's palm connected with my cheek with a crack that echoed through the hallway. We all stood frozen for a moment, the first time she'd ever hit me. "How dare you?" she hissed. "After everything we've done for you." I held my stinging cheek, backing toward the stairs. "What you've done for me? Like taking out $1 million life insurance policy without telling me—" My father stepped between us. "Everyone calm down. Vane, go to your room. Catherine, kitchen, now." I ran upstairs, locking my door behind me. Through the floorboards, I could hear them arguing, voices raised in a way they rarely were. "The timeline has to change," my mother said. if she's inherited money, if she's in contact with lawyers. We don't know what it is yet, my father countered. You think it's coincidence certified mail from attorneys right now? Lower your voice. She's going to leave Thomas, and if she leaves, we lose everything. 8 years of premiums, all that planning. Then we move faster. How much faster? Days, not weeks. My blood turned to ice. I pressed my phone against the floor, recording everything. Their voices dropped to whispers, but I caught fragments. Make it look natural. The space heater. Check the windows. Garage placement. That night, I couldn't sleep. I pulled out the letter again, studying every word. $3 million. Freedom. But also a target on my back now. I needed to learn more about why Grandma Eleanor cut my parents out of her will, what these past transgressions were. I searched online for her obituary, finding it in a Vermont newspaper. It mentioned she died peacefully in a nursing home, survived by one granddaughter. No mention of my parents at all. The photo showed a woman with kind eyes and silver hair holding a cat. I had no memories of her past age 6. The next morning, my parents acted like nothing had happened. My mother made pancakes, all smiles, though the bruise on my cheek told a different story. I'm sorry about yesterday, she said, not meeting my eyes. I just worry about you. What really happened to Grandma Eleanor? I asked suddenly. Both my parents froze. What brought that up? My father asked carefully. I've been thinking about family lately. You said she died when I was 16, but I don't remember a funeral. It was a small service, my mother said. You were going through a difficult time. We thought it best not to upset you further. What difficult time? They exchanged glances. Your depression, my mother said. Don't you remember after that boy broke up with you? I had no memory of any serious boyfriend at 16, certainly none that would cause depression severe enough to miss my grandmother's funeral. But I nodded, filing away another lie. Over the next few days, I searched the house when they were at work looking for any information about my past. In a filing cabinet in the basement, I found a folder marked Legal Documents. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was my birth certificate, but it wasn't what I expected. The parents listed weren't Catherine and Thomas Walsh. The names were Jennifer and Michael Crawford, and under cause of death for both house fire. I was adopted. My entire life was built on lies. The documents showed my parents received a payment of $50,000 from the state after adopting me, some kind of settlement related to my birth parents' deaths. They'd taken me in when I was 2 years old. Suddenly, so many things made sense. Why I looked nothing like them, why we had no extended family, why they seemed to know so little about my early childhood when I asked questions. I photographed everything, my mind reeling. My real parents died in a house fire. Now my adoptive parents were planning another one. The coincidence was too horrible to be chance. That evening at dinner, I watched them with new eyes. These weren't my parents. They were strangers who'd been paid to take me in, who'd insured me like property, who were now planning to cash in their investment. Eat your soup, dear, my mother urged. It's getting cold. I pushed it away. I'm not hungry. You need to keep your strength up, she insisted. You're looking thin. My father watched me over his glasses. Is something troubling you, Vane? Yes, I wanted to scream. You're planning to kill me like my real parents died in a fire for money. Instead, I stood. I'm going to bed early. As I climbed the stairs, I heard my mother whisper, "She knows something." "Then we do it tomorrow night," my father replied. But tomorrow night never came. Because that night, everything accelerated beyond even their careful planning. The morning after discovering I was adopted, I called in sick to work again. My supervisor was getting frustrated, but I needed answers before it was too late. I drove to the one person who'd known me longest besides my parents, Dr. Sarah Martinez, my pediatrician from childhood through high school. Her clinic was in the older part of town, a small brick building with a faded mural of cartoon animals on the side. The receptionist recognized me immediately. "Vane Walsh. It's been years. Are you feeling all right?" "I need to see Dr. Martinez," I said. "It's urgent." She's with a patient, but I can squeeze you in after. I waited in the familiar waiting room surrounded by the same toys and books from my childhood. 20 minutes later, Dr. Martinez emerged, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in the same bun she'd worn for decades. Vain. Her face showed surprise, then something else. Relief. Come with me. She led me not to an exam room, but to her private office, closing and locking the door behind us. The walls were covered with children's drawings and thank you cards from decades of patients. "I've been waiting for you to come," she said, settling behind her desk. "Part of me hoped you never would, that I was wrong. But another part—" "Sit down, please." "You've been waiting for me." She pulled out a key from around her neck and unlocked a filing cabinet. "I need to show you something, but first tell me why you're here." "I think my parents are planning to hurt me." I said the words tumbling out. "They have a life insurance policy, and I found out I'm adopted and my real parents died in a fire." Dr. Martinez held up her hand. "Your real parents' death wasn't an accident." The room spun. "What?" She pulled out a thick file with my name on it, plus a small external hard drive. "I've been documenting everything since you were 3 years old when your parents first brought you to me. Look." She opened the file, revealing medical records photos and detailed notes. The first photo showed a small girl with bruises on her arms in the distinctive pattern of adult finger marks. "You were 3, she said softly. "Your mother said you fell off a swing, but those are grip marks, Vane. Someone held you hard enough to bruise." She flipped through more records. A burn on my shoulder at age 4, allegedly from touching a hot stove I couldn't have reached. A fracture in my wrist at 5 from falling downstairs when our house only had 1 story. Poisoning symptoms at age 6 from accidentally eating berries in a yard that had no berry bushes. "I started documenting everything," Dr. Martinez continued, "taking extra photos, keeping detailed notes. Your injuries were always just below the threshold that would trigger automatic investigation, and they always had plausible explanations." "Why didn't you report it?" Her face darkened. "I did. 3 times. Your mother worked for Child Protective Services. Did you know that every report I filed disappeared? The first time she came to my office and explained how mistaken I was, how devoted they were to you. The second time, I received notice that I was under investigation for insurance fraud. The charges were dropped, but the message was clear." She plugged in the hard drive and turned her computer screen toward me. "The third time, I was smarter. I installed security cameras in my exam rooms, completely legal for medical documentation. Watch this." The grainy footage showed a younger me, maybe 8 years old, sitting on the exam table with a clearly broken finger. My parents stood on either side. "Now remember, sweetheart." My mother's voice came through the speakers. "You tripped over Daddy's tools in the garage. You put your hand out to catch yourself." "But Mommy, you said not to lie," young me protested. My father gripped my shoulder. "This isn't lying. Sometimes we remember things wrong. You tripped over tools. Say it." "I tripped over tools," I repeated in a small voice. "And how did Daddy's tools get in the middle of the garage floor?" my mother prompted. "Because I was playing and knocked them over when I wasn't supposed to be there." "Good girl. And what happens if you tell the story wrong?" Young me's voice dropped to a whisper. "The bad people take me away forever." Dr. Martinez paused the video. I felt sick watching my younger self parrot their lies. "There are hours of footage like this," she said. "They coached you before every visit, threatened you with being taken away, made you believe you were clumsy and accident-prone." She showed me more videos, more injuries, more coaching sessions. The pattern was undeniable. These weren't accidents or discipline gone too far. This was systematic, calculated abuse designed to stay just under the radar. 6 months ago. Dr. Martinez continued, "Your mother came to see me, not for medical reasons. She wanted to know about drug interactions, specifically which combinations could cause heart failure without leaving obvious traces. She said she was writing a mystery novel." Oh, God. I gave her false information, harmless combinations. But Vane, she also asked other doctors. Dr. Patel told me she asked him about insulin overdoses. Dr. Kim said she inquired about antifreeze poisoning, claiming she was concerned about pets accidentally ingesting it. My hands shook as she handed me a USB drive. Everything's on here. Medical records, videos, my personal notes, correspondence with other doctors. I've been waiting, hoping you'd come before they killed me. She nodded grimly. Your case haunted me. The systematic nature of it, the patience. Most abusers escalate quickly, but your parents played a long game. I think they've done this before. My real parents, I whispered. You said their death wasn't an accident. I spoke with the fire investigator from that case years ago off the record. He always suspected arson but couldn't prove it. The fire started in multiple locations simultaneously, no accelerant found, but the pattern suggested someone who knew exactly how to make it look electrical. Your adoptive father worked construction in that area at the time. They killed my parents to get me. The state paid them to take you in. Traumatized toddler, no living relatives found sympathetic case. $50,000 plus monthly subsidies until you turned 18. Then they took out the life insurance. Everything clicked into place with horrible clarity. They'd murdered my parents, taken me for the money, spent years establishing a pattern of accidents, and now planned to complete their investment with my death. Dr. Martinez leaned forward. I've connected you with someone who can help. Her name is Detective Maria Rodriguez. She specializes in cases like this. But Vane, you need to be careful. If they sense you're about to expose them, they'll accelerate their timeline. I thought of last night's overheard conversation. They already have. They're planning something in the next day or two. Then you need to leave tonight. I can't. If I run, they'll know I'm onto them. They might disappear, do this to someone else. I gripped the USB drive. I need them to think everything's normal while I get this evidence to police. Dr. Martinez wrote down a number. This is my personal cell. Call me the moment anything feels wrong. And Vane. That hidden phone you're recording on Smart Girl. Keep recording everything. As I left her office, she hugged me, something she'd never done when I was a patient. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have fought harder. You documented everything. You saved evidence for over 20 years. That's fighting. Driving home, I noticed a missed call from Jessica, my nurse friend from college. She was the only person I'd told about finding the insurance policy. I called her back. Vane, thank God. Listen, I did some digging about those symptoms you asked about. The combination of medications your mom was asking about. It's textbook poisoning. Meet me tonight and I'll explain everything. Okay. The coffee shop on 5th Street, 8 o'clock. Perfect. And Vane, bring those tea samples you mentioned. I have a test kit. That evening, I pretended everything was normal. I ate dinner with my parents, even drank half the tea my mother gave me when she watched spitting it back into the cup when she looked away. The plant I'd been pouring it into was now completely brown. Feeling better, sweetheart? My mother asked, studying my face. Much better, just tired. We'll get some rest. Tomorrow's a big day. Why, what's tomorrow? My parents exchanged glances. Nothing special, my father said. Just meant it's Friday, end of the work week. But I saw my mother touch the bruise on my cheek from where she'd slapped me, saw the calculation in her eyes. Tomorrow. They were planning it for tomorrow. I had less than 24 hours to stop them. I returned home from Dr. Martinez's office to find my father's construction van in the driveway alongside a locksmith's truck. My stomach dropped as I parked on the street, watching two men carry my bedroom door down the stairs. What's going on? I called out, forcing normalcy into my voice. My father emerged from the house, wiping his hands on his jeans. Security upgrade, sweetheart. There have been break-ins in the neighborhood. Break-ins. I hadn't heard of any, and I religiously checked the local crime reports now. 3 houses in the past month, my mother said, appearing in the doorway. The Johnsons, the Lees, and that new couple on Maple Street. We can't be too careful. The locksmith installed my new bedroom door as I watched helplessly. It was solid wood, no glass panel like the old one, with a commercial-grade lock, the kind that locked from the outside. This seems excessive, I said, running my hand along the frame. It's for your safety, my mother insisted. You're alone up there at the end of the hall. If someone broke in downstairs, you could lock yourself in until help arrived. But the lock was installed backward. Anyone could lock me in from the hallway. I bit my tongue, not wanting to reveal I'd noticed. That afternoon, while my parents supervised the installation of security cameras throughout the house, I texted Jessica about our meeting. Her response came quickly. "Can't wait to see you. This is important." My father appeared in my doorway. "Who are you texting?" "Work stuff," I lied, slipping my phone into my pocket. "You've been missing a lot of work lately." His eyes narrowed. "Everything okay there?" "Just using up sick days before year end." He nodded slowly, but I caught him glancing at the new camera being mounted in the hallway, positioned to see directly into my room when the door was open. By evening, our house had transformed into a high-tech prison. Cameras covered every entrance hallway and common area. A new security panel glowed by the front door, and my father made a show of setting the code. 4578, he said loudly. "Easy to remember, but don't share it with anyone vain?" "Of course not." My mother emerged from the kitchen with a steaming mug. "I made you special tea, chamomile with honey for your throat." I accepted it, noting her watchful gaze. The liquid smelled normal, but I'd learned not to trust anything from her hands. "Thanks. I'll drink it upstairs while I get ready." "Ready for what?" "Meeting Jessica for coffee. Remember I told you yesterday?" My parents shared a look I didn't like. "Oh, honey, I don't think that's a good idea," my mother said. "You're still recovering from your cold." "I feel fine. Still, with everything happening in the neighborhood, we'd prefer you stay home after dark. It's barely 6 o'clock." My father stepped closer, his construction worker frame blocking the doorway. "Your mother's right. It's not safe out there." "Then I'll have Jessica come here." "We're having the carpets cleaned tomorrow," my mother said quickly. "The house needs to be clear of visitors for the chemicals to settle properly. Very toxic if disturbed." Carpet cleaning. Another lie. I nodded as if I believed them, then headed upstairs with my tea. In my room, I poured it into the dying plant and grabbed my purse, checking that my car keys were still there. They weren't. I searched everywhere, my desk, my coat pockets, my gym bag. Gone. Racing to my window, I peered out at my car parked on the street. Still there, but useless without keys. Looking for these... My mother stood in my doorway dangling my keychain. "I need those." "No, you need rest. We'll keep these safe downstairs." "You can't just take my keys." Her face hardened. "We're your parents. We can do whatever necessary to protect you." She left, and I heard the new lock click from the outside. Trapped. I grabbed my hidden phone, texting Jessica. "Can't make it. Please come by tomorrow morning. It's urgent." Her response worried me. "Are you okay? This sounds serious." "Just come by around 10 a.m., please." I tried my bedroom door, locked solid. The window still opened, but we were on the second floor with a straight drop to concrete. Even if I could climb down, they'd see me on the cameras. Testing possibilities. I tried the bathroom door connected to my room. It opened to the hallway, but when I stepped out, my father appeared immediately. "Need something?" "Just getting water." "Your mother brought you tea." I finished it, still thirsty. He followed me to the kitchen, watching as I filled a glass. The house felt different now, charged with tension. Every exit had a camera. The security panel showed all doors and windows armed. "Back to bed now," he said, escorting me upstairs. This time, I heard him lock both my bedroom door and the bathroom door from the hallway. Full lockdown. I spent hours testing every possibility. The windows opened, but not wide enough to fit through. The heating vents were too small. The attic access in my closet had been sealed years ago. My main phone had no signal, probably jammed, but my hidden phone still worked on cellular data. Around midnight, I heard footsteps and muffled voices. Peeking under my door, I saw shadows moving. The sound of power tools echoed from downstairs. What were they doing now? I recorded everything on my hidden phone, whispering observations. December 14th, 12:17 a.m. Construction sounds from first floor. Parents active despite late hour. Cannot determine specific activity. The sounds continued for 2 hours, hammering, drilling, occasional curses from my father. Finally, silence fell. At 3 a.m., I woke to test my door again, still locked, but now I smelled something odd. Fresh paint, no different. Chemical, like the sealant my father used in construction. Morning came slowly. At 7, my mother unlocked my door, all smiles. "Good morning, sweetheart, sleep well." "Fine." I lied, noting the dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept either. "Breakfast is ready. French toast your favorite." I followed her downstairs, freezing at what I saw. Bars now covered every ground floor window, painted white to match the trim, but unmistakably prison-like. The back door had a new deadbolt requiring a key from both sides. "The break-ins really worried us," my mother explained, following my gaze. "Better safe than sorry." "This is insane. We live in a safe neighborhood." Not anymore, apparently. She guided me to the kitchen table where my father sat reading his tablet. "Morning, princess," he said without looking up. "Eat hearty. Big day today." "What's today?" "Friday," he said simply, but his knuckles were white as he gripped the tablet. I forced down a few bites of French toast, mind racing. Jessica would come at 10. I just had to survive until then. "I need to call work," I said. "Let them know I'll be back Monday." "Already handled," my mother chirped. "I called yesterday. Told them you had a family emergency and needed another week." "You called my work." "Of course, honey. You were so sick, barely coherent. They understood completely." Another lie, another trap closing. My supervisor would be furious, might even fire me, but that seemed trivial now. I should check my email at least. "Internet's down," my father said. "Cable company can't come until next week." I pulled out my main phone, confirming no Wi-Fi. The cellular showed no bars. They'd installed a jammer. Only my hidden phone worked and its battery was dying. "This is kidnapping," I said quietly. Both parents looked up sharply. "What a horrible thing to say," my mother gasped. "We're protecting you." By locking me in my room, taking my keys, cutting off communication. My father stood slowly. "You're being dramatic, Vane. Classic signs of the illness Dr. Martinez mentioned at your last visit." "What illness? I haven't seen her in years." "Yesterday, sweetheart. You went yesterday. Don't you remember she's very concerned about your paranoid delusions?" Gaslighting. They were rewriting reality, probably had some forged documents ready. I shut my mouth, realizing anything I said would be twisted. "May I go back to my room?" "Of course," my mother cooed. "Rest is the best medicine." This time they didn't lock the door immediately. I heard them in the hallway whispering urgently. Phrases drifted through: "tonight," an accelerant in place, an alibi confirmed. Tonight. Whatever they planned would happen tonight. I plugged in my hidden phone with my last charging cable, praying it would last long enough. 9:45 a.m. Jessica would arrive in 15 minutes. At exactly 10, the doorbell rang. I rushed to my window, seeing Jessica's blue Honda in the driveway. Relief flooded through me. Help had arrived. But my parents didn't answer the door. The bell rang again and again. I heard Jessica calling out, "Vane, Mrs. Walsh, anyone home?" Still nothing. My parents were probably on camera, visible inside, ignoring her, making it seem like no one was home. I grabbed a lipstick and wrote on my window, "Help, call 911." Jessica looked up, seeing me. Her eyes widened. She pulled out her phone and I saw her dialing. That's when my father emerged from the side of the house. I couldn't hear the conversation, but his body language was casual, friendly. He pointed at the house, shrugged, gestured to his truck. Jessica nodded, looking confused but reassured. No, I pounded on the window, but the new impact-resistant glass barely made a sound. Jessica got back in her car. My father waved as she drove away. Then he looked up at my window and smiled. 5 minutes later, my door clicked locked from the outside. They'd isolated me completely. No work, no friends, no communication, no escape. The house fell silent except for occasional footsteps and the hum of cameras recording everything. I sat on my bed, hidden phone in hand, documenting every detail for whoever might find it later. If anyone found it? As afternoon shadows grew long, I heard my father's truck start. Through my window, I watched him reposition it at the end of the driveway, blocking any vehicle from entering. My mother's car pulled behind his. Perfect positioning to prevent fire trucks from reaching the house. I checked my hidden phone. 3% battery. One last recording whispering everything I knew, all the evidence, the truth about who Catherine and Thomas Walsh really were. If you're watching this, I said to the camera, it means they succeeded, but please don't let them get away with it. Don't let them do this to another child. Their names are... The phone died mid-sentence. Outside my window, the sun set on what my parents planned to be my last day alive. The evening started like any other in our house of horrors, with my mother's knock on my bedroom door at 6:30 sharp. She entered carrying a dinner tray, her smile as perfect as always. "Beef stew tonight," she announced, setting the tray on my desk, "and I made your favorite chamomile tea with local honey." I stared at the steaming mug, remembering the plant I'd been feeding my nightly tea to. Its leaves had progressed from brown to black, curling in on themselves like dying spiders. "Thanks," I managed, picking up the spoon. She sat on my bed, watching expectantly. This was new. Usually she left the tray and went downstairs. "Aren't you eating?" I asked. "Your father and I already ate. We wanted to make sure you got yours while it's hot." She gestured to the tea. "Start with that. It'll soothe your throat." The mug felt heavy in my hands. The honey couldn't quite mask a chemical undertone like the aftertaste of cough syrup. I raised it to my lips, pretending to sip while keeping them sealed. "More," my mother urged. "It works best when you drink it quickly." I fake swallowed, then set the mug down. "Still too hot." Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "It's the perfect temperature, Vane. I tested it myself." My tongue's sensitive today. We sat in tense silence as I picked at the stew, taking small bites that I could easily pocket in my cheek when she looked away. The meat tasted normal, but I couldn't risk it. "You know," she said conversationally, "antifreeze has such an interesting history. Did you know it was discovered by accident? A French chemist was trying to create a different compound entirely." My blood chilled. "That's random." "Oh, I've been researching it for the mystery novel I'm writing. The protagonist uses it to poison her cheating husband. Fascinating how it metabolizes in the body. First it seems like flu symptoms, then organ failure sets in." She was telling me exactly how she planned to kill me. "Sounds dark," I managed. "The best mysteries are. Drink your tea before it gets cold." I lifted the mug again, tilting it against closed lips. A drop touched my tongue, sweet and wrong. I forced myself not to gag. "All of it," she insisted. "I will. Could I have some privacy to eat?" "I'll wait." This was it. The standoff. I couldn't fake drink an entire mug under her watchful eyes. Think Vane. Think. "Actually," I said, standing suddenly, "I need to use the bathroom first." "After you finish your tea." "Mom, I really need to go, unless you want me to have an accident." She sighed but stood. 5 minutes. Then you're finishing everything on that tray." The moment she left, I grabbed the mug and ran to my bathroom. Half went down the toilet, the rest I poured into an empty shampoo bottle I'd been saving for exactly this purpose. Evidence. I refilled the mug halfway with water from the tap, swishing it to distribute any remaining residue. Back at my desk, I took a real sip of the diluted mixture. Even watered down, it tasted wrong. My stomach cramped immediately. When my mother returned, I showed her the half-empty mug. "See, drinking it." "Finish it." I drained the diluted remains, fighting nausea. She watched every swallow, then checked the empty mug. "Good girl. Now eat your stew while I clean up downstairs." The moment she left, I rushed to the bathroom and forced myself to throw up as quietly as possible. Better to get out whatever I'd ingested than let it work through my system. My hands shook as I rinsed my mouth, noticing a strange numbness on my tongue. Within an hour, the real symptoms started. Dizziness came first, making the room spin lazily. Then the sweating soaking through my pajamas. My heart raced, skipping beats. This was from diluted tea. What would the full dose have done? I lay on my bathroom floor, pressing my face against the cool tile. Through the fog of sickness, I heard voices drifting up from downstairs. My mother on the phone, probably. Yes, she's been ill for days now. No, we haven't taken her to the hospital yet. We thought it was just flu. Yes, those symptoms exactly. Establishing the narrative. When I died, they'd tell everyone I'd been sick for days. They'd probably already called my work with updates about my deteriorating condition. I crawled to my hidden phone, grateful I'd found another charger in an old purse. 7% battery, enough for one call. Jessica answered on the second ring. Vane, I came by today, but your dad said you were at a specialist appointment. Listen, I whispered, throat raw from vomiting. Testing the tea. Need you to come get it. Evidence. What, you sound terrible. Poisoned, parents, antifreeze in tea. Oh my God, I'm calling 911. No, they'll intercept. Come tomorrow morning. Tell them you're returning something borrowed. I'll drop the sample out window. Vane, if you're being poisoned, please trust me, have test kit ready. Always carry one in my car. Perks of being a nurse. But Vane, this is serious. Ethylene glycol poisoning can cause permanent damage. How long? What? How long before permanent damage? A pause. Depends on the dose. Hours to days. Are you vomiting? Yes. Good, that helps. Drink water, lots of it. Flush your system. I'm coming now. No, they're watching. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Vane. Promise me. If something happens tonight, tell police about the tea. Nothing's going to happen. I'll be there at 10 sharp. I hung up and curled on the bathroom floor, sipping water from the tap whenever I could manage it. Hours passed in a haze of cramping and dizziness. Sometimes I heard footsteps outside my door, pausing, listening. Around midnight, the symptoms began to ease. Either the dose was smaller than intended, or my body was fighting it off. I managed to sit up, head still, spinning, but less violently. That's when I heard my mother's voice through the air vent talking to someone on speakerphone. The first attempt didn't take, she said. She's showing symptoms, but not progressing as expected. Double the dose tomorrow, a male voice suggested. Not my father, someone else. Too risky. The medical examiner will test for it now that it's in her system. Then switch methods. You have alternatives prepared? Of course. Thomas has the accelerant in place. We just need to ensure she's incapacitated when it starts. And your alibis? Anniversary dinner at Chez Laurent. 7:30 reservation confirmed yesterday. Will be seen by dozens of people. Good. The policy pays out in full. Double indemnity for accidental death. $2 million. My commission remains 20%, as agreed. Commission. Someone else was involved taking a cut. How many people were in on this? The call ended. I lay back down, mind racing through what I'd learned. They had a backup plan involving fire and accelerant. Tomorrow night, while they established an alibi at a restaurant. But I'd survived their first attempt, and in 8 hours, Jessica would arrive with help. I just had to make it through the night. The darkness outside my window seemed endless. Every creak of the house made me tense. Were they coming to check on me? Force more poison down my throat, I wedged a chair under my doorknob, knowing it wouldn't stop them, but might buy me seconds to react. By 4 a.m. exhaustion overtook fear. I dozed fitfully on the bathroom floor, waking every few minutes to sip water and check the time. My body ached, but the worst had passed. The poisoning failed. Dawn came slowly, painting my walls gray, then gold. I'd survived the night. 6 more hours until Jessica arrived. I gathered the shampoo bottle with the tea sample, wrapping it in a plastic bag from my trash can. This was evidence that could convict them, proof of attempted murder. At 7, my mother knocked. Vane, how are you feeling? I stayed silent, feigning sleep. The lock clicked. She entered with another tray. Through slitted eyes, I watched her set it on my desk, then approach my bed. Her hand touched my forehead, checking for fever. I forced myself not to flinch. Still warm, she murmured. Poor thing. She left, locking the door again. The new tray held toast orange juice and another mug of tea. I didn't touch any of it. 8:30, 90 minutes until Jessica. 9 o'clock, my father's footsteps in the hall. 9:30, a car in the driveway. No, too early. I rushed to the window. A white van with Stanley's carpet cleaning on the side. My mother hadn't lied about that appointment, but carpet cleaning meant chemicals, fumes. Another method. The crew unloaded equipment as my parents supervised. Industrial machines, hoses, tanks of cleaning solution. My father pointed to various rooms giving instructions. 9:45. I positioned myself by the window with the evidence bag watching for Jessica's Honda. The carpet cleaners worked downstairs, their machines roaring. The chemical smell grew stronger, seeping under my door. 9:55. Movement on the street, but not Jessica's car. A police cruiser driving slowly past. It didn't stop. 10 o'clock. No Honda, no Jessica. 10:05. Still nothing. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Jessica's mom. She was in an accident last night. She's at St. Mary's Hospital in critical condition. Her car went off the road into a tree. The phone slipped from numb fingers. No accident. They'd killed her, or tried to. My only ally silenced. I was completely alone. At 10:15, my mother appeared at my door with a paper mask. The fumes are pretty strong, sweetie. Wear this. I took it numbly. The mask smelled like chloroform. Actually, I said, thinking fast, I'm feeling sick again. I might throw up. Oh dear. Well, keep the mask handy. The crew will be done by noon. She left me holding the poisoned mask, another murder attempt disguised as concern. How many ways had they prepared to kill me? I had to get out, today, before their 7:30 alibi dinner and whatever horror they'd planned for tonight. But how do you escape a locked room in a house full of cameras when your parents hold all the keys? The answer came from an unexpected source. As I watched the carpet cleaners work, I noticed one young man repeatedly glancing up at my window. When our eyes met, he didn't look away. Instead, he mouthed a single word, police. The young carpet cleaner's mouthed word gave me hope, but I couldn't count on help arriving in time. As the evening progressed, my parents' behavior shifted from casual surveillance to final preparations. At 4 p.m., my mother brought dinner earlier than usual. Soup and crackers, nothing I could pocket or pour away easily. She sat in my desk chair, settling in for the long haul. You need to eat, Vane. Keep your strength up. I'm not hungry. I'm not leaving until you finish everything. The soup smelled normal, but I'd learned not to trust my senses. I took a small spoonful, letting it cool on my tongue before swallowing. No chemical taste, but that meant nothing. Some poisons were odorless, tasteless. All of it, she encouraged. I ate slowly, mechanically, watching her face for any sign of satisfaction. She seemed relaxed, checking her phone occasionally. Too relaxed. If she'd poisoned this meal, she'd be watching more intently. Unless she no longer needed me dead by poison. Unless tonight's plan made the method irrelevant. Mom, I said suddenly, why did you really adopt me? Her fingers stilled on her phone. What kind of question is that? I've been thinking about family lately, about belonging. I realize I don't know the story. You were a beautiful baby who needed a home. We wanted a child. Simple as that. But why me specifically? There must have been other children available. She set down her phone, giving me her full attention. You were special, Vane. The moment I saw your picture in the file, I knew you belonged with us. What file? The adoption agency's catalog. They had photos of all the children needing placement. Another lie. I'd researched enough to know adoption agencies didn't work like pet stores with catalogs, but I nodded as if I believed her. Tell me about that day, when you brought me home. Something flickered in her eyes. Nostalgia or calculation. It was raining, she began. October 23rd, 24 years ago. You were so small, barely 2 years old. You didn't cry when we took you from the foster home. Just stared at everything with those big eyes, taking it all in. Real details, either truth or a well-rehearsed story. The foster mother warned us you might have nightmares about the fire, but you never did. It was like you'd forgotten everything that came before us. What was her name, the foster mother? My mother hesitated. Mrs. Chen. Linda Chen. Chen. One of the names on their forbidden list, I realized. Don't use Chen for any character in the story I remembered from their rules, because it was real, connected to their crimes. Is she still alive? I wouldn't know. We lost touch after the adoption was finalized. My mother stood abruptly. Finish your soup. Your father and I are going out tonight. Where? Anniversary dinner. 27 years married today. But their anniversary was in June. I'd celebrated it with them for over 2 decades. This was December. I thought your anniversary was... That's our wedding anniversary. Tonight is the anniversary of our first date. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. We're sentimental like that. After she left, I did the math. 27 years ago would make their first date happen when they were supposedly in different states, according to the background information I'd found. Another lie, or maybe the only truth she'd told, the anniversary of their partnership in crime. By 6 p.m., I heard them getting ready. Dresser drawers, opening, shower, running the sounds of a normal couple preparing for a nice dinner, except for the smell of gasoline wafting up from the garage below my room. I pressed my ear to the floor, hearing my father's voice. The accelerants distributed throughout the garage rafters. It'll look like oily rags spontaneously combusted. Classic accident. And the timing mechanism, my mother asked. Set for 8:45. We'll be halfway through dessert with perfect alibis. The smoke detectors. Disabled in this wing. The ones downstairs will trigger eventually, but too late for anyone up here. They were discussing my murder like dinner plans. Casual, organized, practiced. A knock interrupted my eavesdropping. My father stood in the doorway wearing his best suit cologne, heavy in the air. Just wanted to say goodnight, Princess. Your mother and I will be back late. Have fun, I managed. He studied me for a long moment. You know, Vane, despite everything, I want you to know that in my way, I did care about you. Past tense. He was already speaking about me in past tense. Thanks, Dad. He nodded and turned to leave, then paused. Oh, I almost forgot. He pulled out a small hammer from his jacket, hefting it thoughtfully. Been meaning to fix that loose board in your window frame. Mind if I take a quick look? My heart stopped. This was it. He was going to nail my windows shut right in front of me. It's not loose, I said quickly. Better safe than sorry. He approached my window with the hammer and a handful of 3-inch nails from his pocket. I watched frozen as he examined the frame with professional interest. See these gaps? He pointed to spaces I couldn't see. Cold air gets in. Wastes heating money. He positioned the first nail at the top corner where the window met the frame. 3 sharp hits with the hammer and it was embedded deep into the wood. The window wouldn't budge now. Dad, what are you doing? Winterizing. Should have done this months ago. He worked methodically, driving nails every 6 inches along the frame. Each strike felt like another bar in my cage. I counted 16 nails total, turning my only potential exit into a permanent fixture. There. He stepped back, admiring his work. Much better. You'll sleep warmer tonight. Through the glass, I could see evening falling. In less than 2 hours, the timer in the garage would trigger. Fire would climb through the walls while I pounded uselessly on windows that wouldn't open, doors that wouldn't unlock. Your mother's calling. Enjoy your evening, Vane. He left with the hammer, pulling my door shut. The lock clicked with finality. 7 p.m., 1 hour and 45 minutes until ignition. I ran my fingers along the nail heads, testing each one. Driven deep, angled to prevent removal. Even if I had tools, which I didn't, extracting 16 nails would take too long. Through my window, I watched my parents' cars pull away. My mother's sedan first, then my father's truck, maintaining the illusion they'd left separately for some reason. The house fell silent except for the ticking of my alarm clock. 7:15. I tried my main phone again, still no signal. The hidden phone showed 3% battery despite charging. They must have installed a power suppressor too slowly draining electronics. 7:30. They'd be arriving at the restaurant now, making a show of checking in with the hostess, being seated at a visible table ordering wine, establishing their presence while their house prepared to burn. I opened my window as far as the nails allowed, about 4 inches. Not enough to squeeze through, but maybe enough to be heard. I began recording on my dying phone. My name is Vane Walsh. It's December 14th, approximately 7:35 p.m. My adoptive parents, Catherine and Thomas Walsh, have imprisoned me in my bedroom and plan to kill me tonight in a house fire. I detailed everything. The insurance policy, the poisoning attempts, Jessica's suspicious accident, the nails in my window frame. I gave names, dates, evidence locations. If my body was found with the phone, at least the truth would be known. 7:45. 1 hour until ignition. I smelled gasoline stronger now, seeping up through the floorboards. My father had done something to concentrate it below my room. 8 p.m. 45 minutes. I dragged my mattress into the bathroom, thinking maybe the extra barrier would buy time. Soaked every towel I could find, stuffing them under doors. Filled the bathtub with cold water. 8:15. I heard something outside. Footsteps on gravel. My heart leaped. Someone was here. I rushed to the window, ready to scream for help. A figure stood in our backyard, barely visible in the darkness. As my eyes adjusted, details emerged. The carpet cleaner from this morning, the young man who'd mouthed, "Police." He looked up at my window and held something to his ear. A phone. He was calling someone. "Help!" I screamed through the gap. "They're going to burn the house. Call 911. He gave a thumbs up and continued talking urgently into his phone. Help was coming. Maybe in time, maybe not, but someone knew. 8:30. 15 minutes. The gasoline smell was overwhelming now. I wondered if my parents had underestimated. Would the fumes alone knock me unconscious before the fire even started? 8:35. 10 minutes. I climbed into the bathtub, fully clothed, clutching my phone in a plastic bag. The porcelain was shocking cold against my skin. If fire reached the bathroom, maybe the water would give me extra seconds. 8:40. 5 minutes. Through the bathroom door, I could hear something mechanical clicking in the walls, the timing mechanism activating, preparing to spark. 8:43. 2 minutes. I started recording again, speaking directly to my parents this time. Catherine and Thomas Walsh, I want you to know I survived your poison. I documented everything. The police have evidence. You won't get away with this. All those children you killed before me will have justice. I promise you that. 8:44. 1 minute. I slipped under the water, holding my breath, phone held above the surface, still recording. 8:45. A soft whoosh from below, then crackling. The timer had triggered. The fire had begun. The whoosh from the garage was followed by an explosion of heat that shook the house. I burst from the water, gasping as orange light flickered through the gap under my bathroom door. 2:43 a.m. No, wait, that was wrong. It was only 8:45 p.m. Why was I thinking 2:43? The smoke was already affecting my brain, making time blur. I stumbled from the bathtub water, streaming off my clothes, and pressed my hand against the bedroom door, hot but not burning. The fire was climbing through the walls but hadn't reached my room yet. Help! I screamed through the 4-inch gap in my nailed window. Fire, someone, help me! The young carpet cleaner was gone from the backyard. Had he really been there? Or was that desperation creating phantoms? Smoke slithered under my door like searching fingers. I shoved wet towels against the gap, but smoke found other ways. Through electrical outlets, ventilation grates, cracks I never knew existed. The overhead light flickered, then died. Only the hellish orange glow from under the door remained. My hidden phone showed 1% battery. I dialed 911 with shaking fingers. 911, what's your emergency? My name is Vane Walsh. I'm trapped in a house fire at 428 Oakwood Drive. My parents nailed my windows shut and locked me in. They're trying to kill me." "Ma'am, slow down. You said someone nailed your windows." "Yes, my parents, Catherine and Thomas Walsh. They have a life insurance policy on me. They started this fire. Please send help." "We're dispatching units now. Can you get to a window?" "The windows are nailed shut. I can't get out. They did this on purpose. They want me to die." Static crackled. Through it, I heard the operator talking to someone else. "She says her windows are nailed shut. Possible domestic situation. Please hurry. The smoke is getting thick." My phone died mid-sentence. No more calls, no more evidence gathering, just me and the growing fire. The smoke thickened, turning from wispy gray to solid black. My eyes streamed tears as I retreated to the bathroom, slamming the door. The small room felt like a trap within a trap. I soaked a washcloth and held it over my nose and mouth, remembering something from a fire safety class. Stay low where the air was cleaner. But in a second-floor room with no escape, staying low only delayed the inevitable. Through the bathroom's frosted window, I saw lights. Neighbors emerging from houses, pointing at smoke billowing from our garage. Someone ran toward us with a garden hose, then stopped, realizing the futility. "Up here." I pounded on the glass. "I'm trapped up here." Mrs. Patterson from next door looked up, her face orange in the fire's glow. Her mouth opened in shock, and she turned, shouting to others. More neighbors gathered, all looking up at my prison window. The bedroom door exploded inward with a sound like thunder. Fire roared through, a living thing seeking oxygen. The heat hit like a physical force, driving me back against the bathroom wall. Time fragmented. I was simultaneously in the bathtub, at the window, on the floor. The smoke made everything dreamlike. Through the chaos, one thought persisted: the attic. My closet connected to an attic access panel painted shut years ago. If I could break through, maybe reach a different part of the house, maybe find breathable air. I charged through the bathroom into my burning bedroom. The heat was incredible, like opening an oven door. Flames crawled up walls across the ceiling, consuming posters and pictures I'd looked at every day for 24 years. The closet doorway flickered with heat shimmer. I dropped to my knees, crawling below the worst smoke. My clothes were still wet from the bathtub, offering seconds of protection. Inside the closet, I stood on wobbling legs and punched upward at the painted-over panel. Pain shot through my knuckles, but the panel didn't budge. I grabbed a shoe and hammered at it, paint chips raining down. The panel cracked. Another hit, and it split. I punched through the opening, splinters tearing my hands. The attic above was dark, but dark meant no fire. Yet. Behind me, something crashed. My bed collapsing, or the dresser. The fire's roar sounded like a monster feeding. I hauled myself up through the jagged opening skin, scraping on broken wood. The attic was an oven, superheated air from below, rising to collect in the peaked space. But it wasn't actively burning. I crawled across planks laid over insulation, guided by the faint light of fire showing through cracks. Every breath hurt. Every movement took enormous effort. The house groaned beneath me, structure weakening. How long before the whole thing collapsed? I reached what felt like the far end of the attic above my parents' bedroom. No access panel here, but the floorboards were already warm. Soon this would burn too. Through a gap in the boards, I saw my parents' room below, empty as expected. Their window would open, their door wouldn't be locked. If I could get down there? I stomped on the boards. They creaked but held. I jumped, putting my full weight into it. A crack appeared. Another jump, and my foot went through plaster and wood, giving way. The hole widened as I fell, landing hard on my parents' bed. Pain shot up my ankle, but I could move. Their bedroom door stood open, hallway beyond, flickering with reflected fire. But their window opened easily. No nails, no locks. Cool night air rushed in like salvation. I stuck my head out, gasping clean oxygen. "She's here," someone shouted below. "West side window." Fire trucks were arriving, having pushed past my father's strategically placed vehicle. Neighbors pointed up at me. Red and white lights painted the scene in flashing colors. I climbed onto the windowsill, looking down at a 15-foot drop to landscaping rocks. Not ideal, but better than burning. The fire hadn't reached this room yet, but smoke poured through the doorway. A firefighter appeared below with a ladder extending it toward me. "Stay there, don't jump!" The ladder rose with agonizing slowness. Behind me, something exploded in the hallway. The fire had found something volatile, accelerating its spread. The ladder touched the sill just as flames entered the bedroom. I didn't wait for instructions, swinging my legs out and finding the rungs. The firefighter below guided my feet as I descended smoke, billowing from the window above. Halfway down, my injured ankle gave out. I slipped, caught myself, slipped again. Strong arms caught me as I fell the last few feet, lowering me to the ground. "Are you hurt? Can you walk?" "My parents," I gasped between coughs. "They did this. They nailed my windows shut." "Let's get you to the ambulance first." "No, you have to know Catherine and Thomas Walsh tried to kill me for insurance money." More hands guided me away from the burning house. I looked back to see flames shooting from my bedroom window right where I'd been trapped minutes ago. The roof began to sag. Then I saw them. My parents' car pulling up to the chaos, their faces perfectly shocked as they emerged. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father rushed forward as if to help, then saw me standing with the firefighters. Our eyes met across the carnival of emergency lights. His face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Surprise, calculation, fear. My mother gripped his arm, whispering urgently, "That's her." I pointed, voice raw from smoke. "She tried to poison me. He nailed my windows shut." A police officer approached them. I couldn't hear the conversation over the fire's roar and emergency radio chatter, but I saw my mother's animated gestures, her finger pointing at me, shaking her head. An EMT wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, checking my vitals. "We need to get you to the hospital." "I'm not going anywhere until police take my statement." "Ma'am, smoke inhalation is serious." "They murdered my birth parents," I shouted, making everyone turn. "They've done this before." More police officers converged on the scene. One approached me, notebook ready. Another stayed with my parents, who were now separated, being questioned individually. "My name is Vane Walsh." I began, words tumbling out between coughs. "My adoptive parents tried to kill me tonight. There's evidence hidden in the house, but I have video on my phone." I patted my pockets, remembering my phone was probably melted plastic in the bathtub. But wait, through the smoke and chaos, I glimpsed something that made my heart soar. The young carpet cleaner from this morning stood at the crowd's edge, holding up a phone, recording everything. He'd been here. He'd seen it all. And now he was live streaming my parents' arrival, their fake shock, my accusations, everything. The truth was spreading across the internet faster than the fire consuming their carefully constructed lies. I pointed at the young man with the phone, catching a police officer's attention. That man saw everything. He was here before the fire started. The officer followed my gesture, but the carpet cleaner had melted back into the growing crowd. Smart. Keep recording, stay anonymous until the right moment. I turned back to see my parents being led to separate patrol cars, their anniversary alibi shattered by my survival. "Ma'am, we really need to get you medical attention," the EMT insisted, guiding me toward an ambulance. I climbed in, still watching the inferno that had been my prison. The roof collapsed in a shower of sparks, taking with it 24 years of staged family life, but also potentially destroying evidence of their crimes. At the hospital, doctors confirmed smoke inhalation damage and minor burns. Nothing fatal thanks to my bathroom water defense and quick escape. As they treated me, I gave statement after statement to a rotating cast of officials. The windows in my bedroom were nailed shut from the outside. I repeated to Detective Maria Rodriguez the officer Dr. Martinez had mentioned. She'd arrived within an hour of the fire, apparently already investigating my parents. "We found the nails," she confirmed. 16 of them driven through the frame. Fire investigators also detected accelerant patterns in the garage, concentrated beneath your room. They made it look like spontaneous combustion from oily rags. Her eyebrows rose. "How did you know that?" "I heard them planning it. I've been recording conversations for weeks. I explained about my hidden phone probably destroyed in the fire, but check cloud storage under this email address. Everything should be there. She made notes rapidly. The young man from the carpet cleaning crew came forward. He's been working with us undercover for 3 days, ever since Dr. Martinez contacted us. He has extensive footage. Relief flooded through me. So you believe me? Miss Walsh, what we believe is that you're very lucky to be alive. Your parents are being held pending multiple charges. But I need you to know this is bigger than just you. The other children, the ones who died before. She nodded grimly. We're reopening 6 cold cases across 4 states. Your survival and evidence might be the key to justice for families who've waited decades for answers. They kept me overnight for observation. I couldn't sleep, jumping at every sound, every flicker of light. A nurse found me at 3 a.m. standing at my window checking for nails that weren't there. It's okay, she said gently. You're safe here. But I wouldn't feel safe until I knew the full truth. The next morning, Detective Rodriguez returned with a laptop. Your cloud storage. Everything uploaded successfully, including videos from the night of the fire. Your phone was recovered from the bathtub damaged, but our tech team extracted additional data. We spent hours reviewing my evidence. Recorded conversations about insurance policies, Poison researched the adoption papers showing payment for taking me in. The detective's expression darkened with each revelation. This recording from December 10th. She said, playing audio of my mother on the phone. She's talking to someone about commission rates, 20% of a $2 million policy. Someone else was involved. We traced the number. Richard Ackerman, insurance broker. He's been facilitating fraudulent policies for your parents and others like them for 15 years. He was arrested this morning. The web of evil spread wider than I'd imagined. How many children had died while this network operated? How many accidents weren't accidents at all? That afternoon, unexpected visitors arrived. An older couple, late 60s, standing nervously at my hospital room door. Vane, the woman said softly. I'm Grace Crawford. I was your father's sister, your real father. I stared at the woman who shared my eyes, my chin. Family I never knew existed. We searched for you for years. She continued, tears streaming. After the fire, you vanished into the system. They told us you'd been adopted by a loving family who wanted privacy. They killed my parents, I said flatly. Your brother and his wife. Then they adopted me for the insurance money. Grace's husband, Robert, supported her as she swayed. We suspected. Michael called me the night before the fire, said he felt like someone was watching the house. But the investigators found no evidence of arson. Thomas Walsh worked construction in your neighborhood then. He knew how to make it look accidental. We talked for hours. They showed me photos of my birth parents, told me stories of the childhood I'd lost. My real name was Sarah Crawford. My parents had been teachers, gentle people who'd wanted a large family. I was to be their first of many children. Instead, I became Catherine and Thomas Walsh's longest con. There's something else, Grace said, pulling out a manila envelope. Your parents left you a trust fund. We've been managing it, hoping someday. It's yours now. Enough to start over, go to college, whatever you need. I held the papers with shaking hands. My birth parents had loved me, planned for my future, never knowing the monsters who would steal me away. That evening, my hospital room filled with more visitors. Mrs. Patterson from next door, who'd called 911 when she saw me at the window. Other neighbors who'd heard my screams, seen my father's truck blocking the driveway, noticed strange behavior over the years, but never connected the dots. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Patterson wept. I should have known, should have done something. They fooled everyone, I assured her. That's what predators do. Dr. Martinez arrived as visiting hours ended, carrying a box of tissues and 2 decades of guilt. I've testified to the grand jury, she said, shown them every piece of evidence I collected. Your parents will never hurt another child. What about Jessica? Have you heard anything? Her face fell. She's stable but still unconscious. Her brake lines were definitely cut. When she wakes up, she'll be another witness against them. If she wakes up, I thought, but didn't say. Detective Rodriguez called that night with updates. Your mother broke. Full confession in exchange for details about the others. She's claiming your father was the mastermind, but evidence suggests equal partnership. How many others? 8 confirmed so far, starting in 1995 with a foster child named Kevin Murray. House fire. They were just 23 years old themselves, barely married a year. They'd been killing children since before I was born. I was supposed to be number 9. Will they get the death penalty? Maine doesn't have capital punishment, but with federal charges for crossing state lines, insurance fraud, and murder for hire with Ackerman's involvement, they'll die in prison. It wasn't enough. Nothing would be enough for the children who never got to grow up, whose last moments were terror and betrayal by those meant to protect them. But it was justice, finally. I left the hospital 3 days later with nowhere to go. The house was a blackened ruin, everything I owned destroyed. But Grace and Robert opened their home, giving me the family I should have had all along. The first night in their guest room, I checked the windows obsessively. All opened easily. No nails, no locks. Robert found me at 2 a.m. testing the front door. It's not locked, he said gently. You're not a prisoner here. You'll never be locked in again. I broke down then, sobbing for the first time since the fire. 24 years of trauma poured out while my uncle held me, promising over and over that I was safe. But safety was just the beginning. Now came the harder part, learning to live without fear, to trust without suspicion, to believe that not everyone who claimed to love me was planning my death. The firefighters had pulled me from burning wreckage, but I still had to save myself from the ashes of who I'd been forced to become. 2 weeks after the fire, Detective Rodriguez called with news that would change everything. We need you to come to the station. The prosecutor wants you present when we play the 911 recordings for your parents' defense team. I arrived at the police station to find a small crowd gathered outside. Journalists, true crime bloggers, and curious citizens drawn by the story that had captivated national attention. Grace and Robert flanked me as we pushed through the chaos. Vane. How does it feel to know your parents killed 8 children? Will you write a book? Do you blame yourself for not seeing the signs sooner? I kept my head down, following Detective Rodriguez into the building. The questions stung, especially the last one. Of course I blame myself. How had I lived with killers for 24 years and not known? Inside, the prosecutor, Amanda Chen, waited in a conference room equipped with recording equipment. Through a window, I could see another room where my parents sat with their lawyers. They couldn't see me, but I could watch their reactions. Catherine had aged 10 years in 2 weeks. Her perfect suburban mom facade had crumbled, leaving a hollow-eyed stranger. Thomas stared at his cuffed hands, shoulders slumped. Their orange jumpsuits made them look exactly like what they were, common criminals. The 911 calls are crucial evidence, Amanda explained. There are 3 of them. Your initial call reporting the insurance policy concerns your call during the poisoning incident, and the final call during the fire. We also have your neighbor, Mrs. Patterson's call, and the dispatcher's recording of the fire response coordination. She pressed play. My voice filled the room, younger sounding, scared but determined. I need to report that I think my parents are planning to hurt me. They have $1 million life insurance policy on me with double indemnity for accidental death. I watched Catherine's lawyer lean forward, whispering urgently. Catherine shook her head, mouthing lies over and over. The second call was harder to hear. My voice was weaker, interrupted by obvious sounds of physical distress. Please, my parents are poisoning me. Antifreeze in my tea. I have samples. Thomas shifted uncomfortably. His lawyer took furious notes. Then came the final recording. The one that had played on news channels across the country, the one that made seasoned reporters cry. My name is Vane Walsh. I'm trapped in a house fire at 428 Oakwood Drive. My parents nailed my windows shut and locked me in. They're trying to kill me. My desperate voice echoed through the speakers. In the background, the crackle of flames, the groaning of wood under assault. The windows are nailed shut. I can't get out. They did this on purpose. They want me to die. Catherine's lawyer objected to something. Amanda paused the recording to address it, then continued. But the most damning part came from the dispatcher's side recording, capturing multiple channels. Dispatcher: all units, we have a possible arson homicide in progress at 428 Oakwood. Victim reports being locked in room with windows nailed shut. Parents suspected. Fire captain: dispatch, we're on scene. Heavy smoke showing from second floor. Neighbors report seeing someone at an upstairs window. Officer Miller: dispatch: I'm with two individuals claiming to be the homeowners. They just arrived, say they were at dinner. Seem surprised by the fire. Dispatcher Officer Miller: be advised the victim named them as suspects. Catherine and Thomas Walsh. Proceed with caution. Fire captain: dispatch, we've confirmed windows are nailed shut from outside. This is a crime scene. The recording continued with coordination between units' firefighters reporting finding me, EMTs confirming my condition. Throughout it all, a deadly timeline emerged. My parents had arrived exactly when expected, their alibi dinner perfectly timed, their shock seemingly genuine until the details emerged. Amanda stopped the playback. Through the window, I saw Thomas slumped forward, head in hands. Catherine stared at the table, her mask finally cracked. There's one more recording, Amanda said quietly. From the carpet cleaner's live stream. The audio is clear. This was new to me. The young man's phone had captured everything, including my parents' arrival at the scene. Catherine's voice pitched high with performed panic. Oh my God, our house is vain, okay. Where's our daughter? Thomas playing the desperate father. She was in her room when we left, sleeping off a cold. Did she get out? Then my voice cutting through their performance. That's her, she tried to poison me. He nailed my windows shut. The recording captured the subtle change in their demeanor, the split second of shock before returning to their roles, Catherine's too quick pivot to concern Thomas's calculated step backward from the police. Most damning was a whispered exchange the phone barely caught. Thomas: she got out. Catherine: shut up, act normal. Thomas: the plan. Catherine is done. Lawyer, now. Amanda turned off the recording. Mr. and Mrs. Walsh, your attorneys have heard the evidence. The grand jury has already indicted based on these recordings and the physical evidence. We're prepared to seek life without parole for each count of murder. 8 children before Vane plus her attempted murder, plus Jessica Hernandez's attempted murder. Through the window, I watched Catherine's lawyer whisper urgently. She shook her head violently at first, then gradually stilled. Thomas and his lawyer were already in deep discussion. However, Amanda continued, the federal prosecutors are particularly interested in the network that enabled these crimes. Insurance brokers, officials who ignored reports, others who may have used similar schemes. Full cooperation and testimony could result in concurrent sentences rather than consecutive. The difference between dying after 1 life sentence or 8. An hour later, Detective Rodriguez emerged with news. Thomas flipped first. Full confession, names, dates, methods. He's giving us everything. And Catherine. Holding out, but her lawyer's working on her. She knows Thomas will bury her if she doesn't cooperate. By evening, both had signed cooperation agreements. The story they told investigators over the following days revealed a horror beyond imagination. They'd met in college, bonding over shared sociopathy disguised as dark humor. Their first victim was Catherine's foster brother when she was 19. They'd made it look like a drowning collected $50,000 in life insurance and realized they'd found their calling. They refined their technique with each child, learning which agencies to work with, how to space out the deaths, which types of accidents raised the least suspicion. Catherine pursued social work specifically to access vulnerable children and manipulate the system. Thomas learned construction to better stage accidents. I was their masterpiece, a long-term investment. They'd murdered my parents, taken the adoption payment, then raised me for 24 years to maximize the insurance value. An adult child's death paid more than a minor's, and they'd had time to take out multiple policies through different brokers. Why did they wait so long? I asked Detective Rodriguez during one of our sessions. Why not kill me years ago? Greed, she replied simply. The policies kept maturing, becoming more valuable, and you were the perfect victim. No extended family asking questions, no one to investigate if you died. They could take their time, make it absolutely foolproof. Except it wasn't foolproof. Their meticulous planning had one flaw: they'd kept me alive long enough to grow suspicious, to develop survival instincts to fight back. The 911 recordings became evidence not just against my parents, but against the entire system that enabled them. How had multiple insurance policies on foster children not raised flags? Why were reports from mandatory reporters like Dr. Martinez so easily buried? How many other predators were operating similar schemes? 3 months later, at their sentencing hearing, I gave my victim impact statement. The courtroom was packed with families of their other victims, all of us bound by the horrific lottery of being chosen by the Walshes. You called me ungrateful, I said, looking directly at Catherine. You were right. I am ungrateful. Grateful children don't survive. They trust. They drink the tea. They sleep soundly while fires are set. My ingratitude saved my life. I turned to Thomas. You said you cared about me in your way. I believe you. You cared about me the way a farmer cares about livestock, keeping me healthy enough to bring the best price at slaughter. The judge sentenced them to 8 consecutive life terms each, plus additional federal time. They would die in prison, hopefully afraid every night that someone might lock their cell doors and set a fire. As they led my parents away, Catherine turned back one last time. Our eyes met across the courtroom. For just a moment, her mask dropped completely, and I saw the empty void where a soul should have been. Then she was gone, and I could finally begin to breathe. Outside the courthouse, the media waited with their questions and cameras, but this time I was ready. My name is Sarah Crawford, I said, using my birth name publicly for the first time. I was stolen, but I survived, and now I'm going to make sure no child goes through what I and the others did. Thank you. Grace took my arm, and we walked away from the courthouse, from the cameras, from the 24-year nightmare that had been my life as Vane Walsh. The 911 recordings had saved me twice, once by bringing help when I was trapped in a burning room, and again by proving that sometimes children who cry wolf are actually surrounded by them, wearing the faces of those who claim to love them most. 3 months into the investigation, Detective Rodriguez called with urgency in her voice. We're executing a search warrant on your parents' house. What's left of it? The fire destroyed the upper floors, but the basement survived. You should be here for this. I met her at the blackened skeleton of what had been my prison. The air still smelled of char and chemicals. Yellow tape surrounded the property, and investigators in protective gear moved through the debris. We found a hidden room, Rodriguez explained, leading me around back. Behind what looked like a water heater closet. Your father did quality work hiding it. The basement entry was clear of debris. We descended into darkness that felt familiar yet alien. I'd lived above this space for 24 years, never knowing what lay beneath my feet. The hidden room was small, maybe 8 by 10 feet. Filing cabinets lined one wall. A desk held an old computer, and covering the opposite wall were photographs. Dozens of children's faces stared back at me. Oh God, I whispered. We've identified 6 so far, Rodriguez said gently. Kevin Murray, Lisa Chen, Marcus Williams, Amy Patel, David Kim, Jennifer Nguyen, all foster children who died in your parents' care. But there were so many more photos. Some looked like official placement pictures. Others were candid shots of children playing, eating, sleeping, unaware they were being cataloged for death. An FBI evidence technician worked on the computer. Password protected, but we'll crack it. The filing cabinets are a goldmine, though. I moved closer to the photographs, drawn by terrible fascination. Some children smiled brightly. Others looked wary, already learning not to trust. A few were babies so young they never had a chance to understand danger. This one, I pointed to a girl with braids and missing front teeth. She looks familiar. Rodriguez checked her notes. No identification yet on that one. But I knew her. Something about those eyes, that defensive posture. Where had I seen her? The filing cabinets revealed meticulous records, insurance policies, medical forms, correspondence with agencies. Each child had their own folder, their life reduced to paperwork and profit calculations. Look at this, the technician said, holding up a folder marked with my name. Inside were documents dating back before my birth, photos of my parents' house, their work schedules, notes about their routines. They stalked my birth parents, I realized, planned everything. The folder contained floor plans of my childhood home with exit routes marked, insurance information about my parents' life policies, even a newspaper clipping about a small electrical fire at their workplace 6 months before they died. Practice run, Rodriguez muttered. They tested their methods first. Deeper in my file were yearly photos of me annotated with physical descriptions and milestone events. First day of school, note compliant, eager to please. Age 10, beginning to ask about birth parents, redirect successful. Age 16, depression following grandmother story, useful for future narrative. They documented my entire manufactured life. We found something else. Rodriguez led me to another cabinet. Records on children they didn't kill. What? Apparently some kids were rejected, deemed unsuitable for various reasons. The rejected files were thinner but revealing. Too many relatives. Previous abuse documented too much scrutiny. Medical condition would complicate insurance. Behavioral issues might tell. They'd been shopping for victims, selecting only the most vulnerable and profitable. Hours passed as investigators processed evidence. I sat on the basement stairs, numb from revelations. Then something in my peripheral vision caught my attention. A file had fallen behind a cabinet, yellow with age. "There's something back there," I called out. An agent retrieved it, whistling low. "This is old, 1989. The file was labeled Practice Family, Eleanor Fitzgerald. My grandmother, my real grandmother. Inside were surveillance photos of a younger Eleanor, maybe 50 years old. Notes in Catherine's handwriting, mother estranged from daughter Catherine, significant estate, no other heirs, possibility. They'd considered killing Catherine's own mother. The final note explained why they hadn't. EF has connected C to previous incidents, threatens exposure, abort, maintain distance, monitor for opportunity. Previous incidents. I looked at Rodriguez. She was already cross-referencing. Your mother was questioned in the death of a foster child when she was 17. Insufficient evidence to charge. Your grandmother suspected her involvement. That's why Eleanor had cut them from her will. She'd known what her daughter was capable of, and she'd tried to protect me the only way she could by leaving me resources to escape. The computer finally yielded its secrets. Spreadsheets calculating return on investment for each child, correspondence with Richard Ackerman and 3 other insurance brokers across the country, research on undetectable poisons, staged accidents, fire acceleration methods. But the most chilling discovery was a folder titled Future Acquisitions. 12 children currently in the foster system, complete with photos and placement information. Their next victims already selected and researched. We need to check on these kids immediately, Rodriguez barked to her team. One file stood out. A boy named Miguel, age 4, recently orphaned in a fire that killed his parents. The notes were extensive plans already in motion for Catherine's colleague to recommend the Walshes as emergency placement. They were replacing me, I said quietly. I was aging out of profitability, so they lined up the next investment. Rodriguez's phone rang. She listened, face darkening. Thomas just gave us more names, not victims, other couples. He says there's a whole network. The evidence room had become command central. Agents coordinated across state lines, checking on children, arresting conspirators. In one day, they'd uncovered a nationwide murder ring operating for 30 years. How? I asked anyone listening. How did no one notice patterns? Different states, different systems, an FBI agent explained. Foster children move around, records get lost, deaths spread over decades don't look connected unless you're specifically searching for patterns. By evening, 16 children from the Future Acquisitions folder had been located and secured. 3 couples in other states were arrested based on Thomas's information. The network was collapsing. But we still hadn't found records for all the photographed children. Some faces would remain mysteries, their stories lost in bureaucratic graves. Vain. Rodriguez found me staring at the wall of photos as investigators carefully removed them for evidence. You saved them. These kids in the files, Miguel and the others. They're alive because you survived. It wasn't enough comfort, not when facing dozens of children who hadn't been saved, who'd trusted the wrong people and paid the ultimate price. There's one more thing, she said quietly. We found a safety deposit box key. It led to video recordings. My stomach dropped. Of what? Insurance documentation. Your parents filmed the children before their deaths, establishing their good health for claim purposes. But vain. Some videos show more. Show them coaching kids about accidents. Show them practicing their grief for after. I didn't want to see them, but I needed to know. Rodriguez set up a laptop in her car away from other investigators. The first video showed a boy about 6 sitting at our kitchen table. My parents flanked him, all smiles. Now remember, Kevin, Catherine's younger voice instructed, you love swimming, but sometimes you don't listen to rules. What happens when we don't listen to rules? Bad things, Kevin replied solemnly. That's right. And if something bad happened because you didn't listen, whose fault would it be? Mine. Good boy. 2 weeks later, according to the file, Kevin drowned in a pool after ignoring repeated warnings to stay in the shallow end. Video after video showed similar coaching, children learning to accept blame for their upcoming deaths, my parents perfecting their performances of grieving caregivers. Then I found a video of myself, age 3. I sat between them on our old couch, clutching a teddy bear. Where did you live before here? Catherine asked. With Mommy and Daddy, Tiny Me replied. No, sweetheart. Your Mommy and Daddy went to heaven. There was a fire because they forgot to check their smoke detectors. Now you live with us. We're your Mommy and Daddy now. But I saw you had a bad dream. Fire is very scary, but you're safe now. What happened to your first Mommy and Daddy? They forgot smoke detectors. That's right. And what must we always remember? Check smoke detectors. They'd programmed me from the beginning to accept their version of reality, to blame my birth parents for their own murders, to normalize the very weapon they'd eventually use against me. I closed the laptop, unable to watch more. 21 years later, they'd disabled those same smoke detectors, confident in their perfect crime. The videos are being transcribed for trial, Rodriguez said. Juries will see exactly who your parents were. As we left the ruins of my childhood home, I took one last look at the basement window. For 24 years, evidence of monstrous crimes sat directly below where I slept. The children in those photos had been my silent companions, waiting in the dark for justice. What happens to the house now? I asked. It'll be demolished. The lot will be sold. Eventually, someone will build something new. But I knew better. Some ground stays poisoned no matter what you build on top. The children who died there would always own that land, their voices carried on the wind whenever it blew through empty spaces where walls once stood. My parents had kept trophies of their kills like serial killers, documenting their evil with bureaucratic precision. They never imagined those files would become evidence against them, never thought one child would survive to ensure the others were counted. As we drove away, I made a promise to the faces on that wall. Their names would be spoken in court, their stories would be told, their murders would be avenged through justice, decades delayed, but finally delivered. The hidden files had revealed the true scope of my parents' evil, but they'd also revealed their weakness, arrogance. They'd believe their system was perfect, their crimes undetectable, their victims disposable. They were wrong on all counts. 6 months after the fire, I sat across from Prosecutor Amanda Chen in a conference room that had become as familiar as my childhood bedroom. Bankers' boxes of evidence surrounded us, each one containing horrors that would soon be presented to 12 strangers. "We need to prepare you for what's coming," Amanda said, her usually composed face showing concern. "Their defense teams are going to attack your credibility, your memory, everything about you." "I know." "No vein. I don't think you do." She pulled out a folder. "Catherine hired Melissa Hartman. She specializes in destroying witnesses. And Thomas has Jerome Banks, who's gotten 3 child killers acquitted by claiming psychological manipulation." The names meant nothing to me, but Amanda's expression said everything. "They'll claim you have false memory syndrome. That trauma from losing your birth parents created delusions. That the fire was an accident you've reimagined as attempted murder. They'll dig into every moment of your life looking for instability they can exploit. But the evidence is overwhelming, yes, but they only need one juror to doubt, one person to believe maybe you're disturbed rather than victimized." We spent the next weeks in intensive preparation. Amanda brought in a forensic psychologist to evaluate me, ensuring no surprises during trial. The sessions were grueling, excavating 24 years of subtle abuse I'd normalized. "When did you first feel afraid of your parents?" Dr. Patricia Reeves asked during our 3rd session. "I don't know if I was ever afraid exactly. It was more like walking on ice, always testing the surface, never knowing when it might crack." "Tell me about a specific incident." I thought back. I was 7. I'd drawn a picture at school of my family, but I included a baby sister. When my mother saw it, she went very quiet. That night, I heard her telling my father I was getting ideas. The next day, she volunteered at my school and had a long talk with my teacher about my difficulty distinguishing fantasy from reality. "How did that make you feel?" "Confused. I knew other kids who wanted siblings. Why was my wish treated like a symptom?" Dr. Reeves made notes. Classic gaslighting. They pathologized normal childhood desires to establish a pattern of you being unreliable. Everything I'd thought was family quirk revealed itself as calculated manipulation. They'd been building a defense against me before I could even spell my own name. Other families began arriving as the trial date approached. Parents, siblings, and grandparents of the children my parents had murdered. We met in a hotel conference room, an impossibly sad support group. Marcus Williams' grandmother wept as she held my hands. I knew something was wrong. He called me the night before he died, said his foster parents were acting strange. But I lived 2 states away. Couldn't get there in time. Lisa Chen's older brother had spent 15 years investigating her death. The police said I was too emotional to think clearly, said accidents happen, but Lisa was terrified of water. She never would have gone near that lake voluntarily. Each family had suspected, had questioned, had been dismissed. The system designed to protect children had instead protected their killers, valuing paperwork over intuition. "We're filing a civil suit," Amy Patel's father told the group, "against the state agencies that ignored reports, against the insurance companies that never questioned multiple policies on foster children, against everyone who enabled this." I thought of Dr. Martinez keeping evidence for decades because the system failed her too. How many mandated reporters had been silenced? How many red flags ignored? Jessica finally woke up 3 weeks before trial. I rushed to her hospital room, finding her pale but alert. "You're alive," she said when she saw me. "I was so scared I'd wake up and find out they'd succeeded." "You almost died because of me." "No, I almost died because serial killers didn't want their crimes exposed. Big difference." She squeezed my hand weakly. "Did you save the tea sample?" "Fire destroyed it. But my testimony about your analysis will be admitted." "I'll testify too. Brake lines don't cut themselves." Her recovery became another piece of evidence, another attempted murder to add to the charges. Catherine and Thomas had failed to kill both of us, leaving 2 witnesses instead of none. The media attention intensified as trial approached. True crime podcasts dissected every aspect of the case. Netflix announced a documentary. Publishers offered book deals. Everyone wanted to profit from our pain. Vultures, Grace muttered, pulling curtains closed against photographers camped outside her house. But Amanda saw opportunity. Public pressure helps. The more eyes on this trial, the harder it is for anything to go wrong. She was right. The media attention brought forward more witnesses. A hardware store clerk remembered Thomas buying specific nails the day before the fire. The restaurant confirmed my parents had made their anniversary reservation weeks in advance, unusual for them. Small details that painted a picture of premeditation. Then came an unexpected break. Richard Ackerman, the insurance broker, flipped completely. Facing life in prison, he offered to testify about the entire network in exchange for a reduced sentence. "I have names," he told investigators. "Couples in 12 states, some still active, some with children placed right now." The FBI task force expanded overnight. Children were removed from homes, more arrests made. The trial of Catherine and Thomas Walsh had become the key to unraveling a nationwide horror. But my parents weren't going down without a fight. Their lawyers filed motion after motion, demanding separate trials, claiming prejudicial media coverage, arguing evidence was obtained illegally. Each motion failed, but the strategy was clear delay, complicate, create doubt. Then came the personal attacks. Melissa Hartman subpoenaed my college records, work history, medical files, looking for any diagnosis, any counseling session, any moment of struggle they could twist. "You were prescribed antidepressants at 19, she noted during a deposition. "I was dealing with normal college stress. Or were you showing early signs of psychological instability?" "Objection," Amanda interrupted. "Counsel is testifying." But the seed was planted. Every normal human moment of my life would be pathologized. Every challenge reframed as mental illness. Jerome Banks took a different approach with my childhood. "These injuries," Dr. Martinez documented, "you were quite accident-prone as a child. My parents staged those injuries. But you don't actually remember them staging anything, do you? You were very young. I remember them coaching me to lie about them." Or do you remember being coached to tell the truth about your clumsiness, which you've now reinterpreted as lies, round and round twisting reality until even I sometimes wondered what was real? That's when I understood their strategy. They didn't need to prove innocence. They just needed to exhaust everyone into doubt. Amanda coached me through it. Stay calm. Answer simply. Don't elaborate. Don't get emotional. They want you angry or crying. Give them nothing. 2 days before trial, Catherine requested to see me. Her lawyer presented it as a chance for closure, possible plea negotiation. Amanda advised against it, but I needed to face her one last time without bars between us. She sat in the jail interview room wearing orange that clashed with her skin. No makeup, gray roots showing. The perfect suburban mother mask finally discarded. "Vain," she said softly. "My daughter." "I'm not your daughter. I never was. I raised you, fed you, clothed you, kept you safe for 24 years. Safe you tried to burn me alive." Her eyes, which I'd once thought capable of love, remained empty. "I tried to complete a business transaction that had become unprofitable. You were supposed to die at 18. Clean accident, good return on investment. But you kept surviving things. The sleeping pills at 16 didn't work. The brake failure at 20 was avoided. You were remarkably lucky. Those were all attempts. Of course, but Thomas got attached, kept saying we should wait for better opportunities. His weakness complicated everything." She spoke about my planned death like a delayed Amazon delivery. No emotion, no recognition of monstrosity. Why, I asked. What made you this way? Money is freedom. Children are money. Simple math. She leaned forward. You think you've won, but you're wrong. Every family barbecue you attend, every friend's child you meet, you'll wonder, Are they like us? How many of us are out there wearing normal faces planning patient deaths? You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to prepare you. We exist, Vane, in every neighborhood, every school, every foster agency. You survived us, but thousands won't. Your victory is meaningless. I stood to leave. You're wrong. Every child removed from homes because of this case is a victory. Every conspirator arrested. Every policy that changes. You failed, and your failure saves lives. Naive to the end. Just like your birth parents, they trusted so easily. Don't talk about them. Did you know your mother was pregnant when she died? Thomas found out during his surveillance. You were going to be a big sister. The words hit like physical blows. A sibling lost, another life stolen. That's why you acted when you did. 2 children meant split inheritance. Catherine smiled, the expression grotesque on her hollow face. See simple math. I left without another word, her revelation burning inside me. My parents hadn't just stolen my life. They'd stolen my unborn siblings, too. That night, I dreamed of a child who was never born playing in a yard that never existed, calling me sister, in a voice that was never heard. I woke to Grace holding me as I sobbed for losses I'd never known to grieve. Trial began in 2 days. 12 jurors would decide if justice existed for children murdered by those meant to love them. The evidence was overwhelming, but Catherine had shown me truth. Evil wore normal faces and spoke in reasonable tones. The only question was whether 12 ordinary people would see through the mask to the monsters beneath. The first day of trial arrived with November snow, as if nature itself wanted to blanket the ugliness we were about to expose. I sat in the witness preparation room, hands shaking despite months of readiness. "Remember?" Amanda said, adjusting her suit jacket. "You're not just speaking for yourself. You're the voice for 8 children who can't speak." The courtroom was packed. Media filled one section. Families of victims, another. I saw Dr. Martinez near the front, Jessica in a wheelchair beside her. My Aunt Grace and Uncle Robert sat directly behind the prosecution table. Across the aisle, Catherine and Thomas sat at separate defense tables, treating each other like strangers. Judge Patricia Yamamoto called for opening statements. Amanda rose, commanding the room's attention. 24 years ago, Jennifer and Michael Crawford died in a house fire, leaving behind a 2-year-old daughter and an unborn child. That fire was not an accident. It was murder committed by the defendants to steal that child and profit from her eventual death. She outlined the case methodically. 8 murdered foster children, 1 biological family eliminated, years of documented abuse, financial records showing millions in insurance payouts, the attempted murder of both me and Jessica, a nationwide conspiracy of child killers. The evidence will show that Catherine and Thomas Walsh turned the foster system into a murder-for-profit enterprise. They selected the most vulnerable children, gained their trust, and killed them for money. Vane Walsh sits here today only because she refused to drink the poison, escape the fire, and live to expose their crimes. Melissa Hartman's opening for Catherine painted a different picture. This is a case about mental illness, tragic accidents, and a disturbed young woman's fantasy. Vane Walsh suffered early trauma losing her birth parents. That trauma manifested in paranoid delusions about the loving couple who raised her. Every accident became attempted murder in her mind. Every parental concern became a sinister plot. She acknowledged the fires, the insurance policies, even the nailed windows, but reframed everything. The policies were prudent planning. The window nails were misguided security efforts. The fire was an electrical accident in an old house. Catherine was guilty only of loving a troubled child too much. Jerome Banks took yet another approach for Thomas. My client is a victim too, manipulated by a sociopathic wife, forced to participate in schemes he never fully understood. When he finally tried to protect Vane to delay what Catherine planned, he was overruled. Thomas Walsh is a weak man who loved his daughter, not a killer. The battle lines were drawn. I was either a victim or delusional. My parents were either killers or misunderstood caregivers. There would be no middle ground. Amanda called Dr. Martinez first. For 3 hours, she walked through 24 years of suspicious injuries, documented abuse, silenced reports. She showed photos, medical records, videos of my parents coaching me to lie. In 30 years of practice, Dr. Martinez testified, "I've never seen such systematic, calculated abuse. This wasn't anger or neglect. This was programming a child for eventual murder." Hartman attacked hard on cross-examination. "You never actually saw the Walsh's hurt vein, did you?" "I saw the results repeatedly." "But children do have accidents, especially active children." The pattern was, "Answer the question. You never witnessed abuse directly." "No." "And when you reported your suspicions, investigations found no evidence of abuse because Catherine Walsh worked for CPS and made reports disappear. Or because there was no abuse to find." It went on like that for hours. Every certainty twisted into doubt. Every fact given an alternate interpretation. I watched jurors' faces trying to read their thoughts. Some looked sympathetic. Others seemed confused. One older man frowned throughout arms crossed. Days blended together. Fire investigators testified about accelerant patterns. The prosecution played the 911 recordings, my desperate voice filling the courtroom. Several jurors wiped away tears. Catherine stared straight ahead, unmoved. Thomas kept his head down. The windows were nailed shut from the outside. Fire Chief Morrison testified, "In 40 years, I've never seen that in an accidental fire." Banks countered by suggesting I might have nailed them myself in a paranoid episode then forgotten. The theory was absurd, but he presented it calmly, reasonably, planting seeds of doubt. Richard Ackerman's testimony should have been devastating. He detailed the entire insurance murder network, explaining how couples were recruited, children selected, deaths staged. He named names, showed financial records, exposed a 30-year conspiracy. But Hartman destroyed him on cross. "You're facing life in prison unless you testify here." "Yes." "So you'd say anything to reduce your sentence." "I'm telling the truth." Like when you told insurance companies these children were healthy. Like when you told foster agencies these couples were wonderful parents. You've been lying professionally for decades. Why should we believe you now? Ackerman had no good answer. The prosecution's star witness left the stand, diminished his credibility in tatters. Then came the families. One by one, parents and siblings of murdered children testified about their suspicions, their dismissed concerns, their decades of unanswered questions. Marcus Williams' grandmother broke down, describing her grandson's fear in his final phone call. Lisa Chen's brother presented his own investigation, 15 years of work dismissed by authorities. "Nobody wanted to believe foster parents could be killers," he said. "It was easier to call us paranoid than investigate dead children." The defense couldn't attack grieving families as harshly, but they still raised doubts. Memories fade over time. Grief creates false certainties. Loving families often can't accept that accidents happen. 2 weeks into trial, Amanda finally called me to testify. I'd been dreading and anticipating this moment equally. As I walked to the witness stand, I passed within feet of my parents. Catherine looked through me like I was invisible. Thomas glanced up, something almost like regret in his eyes. "State your name for the record," Amanda began. "Sarah Michelle Crawford, formerly known as Vane Walsh." For 3 days, I told my story. Every memory of coaching, every suspicious injury, every overheard conversation. I described finding the insurance policy, discovering my adoption, learning about my grandmother's inheritance. I detailed the poisoning attempts, the escalating imprisonment the night of the fire. I recorded everything I could on a hidden phone, I explained. I knew they were going to kill me. I just didn't know when or how. Amanda played excerpts from my recordings. My parents discussing the insurance policy, planning the fire, coaching me to lie. The jury heard it all in their own voices. The defendant, Catherine Walsh, told you she was writing a mystery novel about antifreeze poisoning. unbalanced. Yes, while making me drink tea that tasted wrong. What happened to the plant you poured that tea into? It died within days, turned black and shriveled. Did you report the poisoning attempt? I told Jessica Hernandez, a nurse. She was going to test the tea, but her brake lines were cut before she could. The story unfolded piece by piece. By the time Amanda finished, several jurors were crying. Even the skeptical older man looked shaken. Then came cross-examination. Hartman approached with a sympathetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. This must be very difficult for you, Vane. My name is Sarah. Of course, Sarah. You've been through so much trauma, losing your birth parents so young. Being murdered isn't the same as losing. But you don't actually remember their deaths, do you? You were only 2. No. So, everything you believe about their deaths comes from what others told you. And evidence, the fire investigation, which initially ruled it accidental, only changed when Detective Rodriguez reopened it based on your claims. Your memories have shaped this entire investigation, haven't they? This was her strategy. Make me the center of everything, then discredit me. You were prescribed antidepressants in college. Yes, for normal adjustment issues. You told the counselor you felt like you didn't belong anywhere, that you questioned who you really were. Normal adoptee feelings, or symptoms of dissociation identity disturbance. Objection, Amanda called. Counsel is not qualified to make diagnostic assessments. Withdrawn. Sarah, you mentioned recording conversations, but many of those recordings are unclear, aren't they? Muffled open to interpretation. Some are clearer than others. And you made these recordings secretly illegally in a 2-party consent state. I was documenting abuse. Or manufacturing evidence for your delusion. It continued for hours. Every piece of evidence questioned every memory challenged. Hartman was skilled at her craft, turning my survival instincts into symptoms of mental illness. Banks was somehow worse. He painted me as the real villain, a troubled child who'd driven poor Thomas to desperate measures, trying to protect me from myself. Thomas delayed several of Catherine's plans, didn't he? I don't know their internal discussions. But you testified that you overheard him saying you should wait, that the timeline shouldn't be rushed. Yes. Sounds like a father trying to protect his daughter. Or a killer wanting to maximize profit. You're very cynical for someone raised by parents you describe as perfect actors. How did you develop such suspicion if they were so loving? The question caught me off guard. How do you explain a lifetime of sensing wrongness without sounding paranoid? Survival instinct. I finally answered. Some part of me always knew I was in danger. Or some part of you was always ill creating danger where none existed. By the time cross-examination ended, I felt hollowed out. Every truth I'd spoken had been twisted, questioned, reframed. I looked at the jury, wondering if any of them still believed me. The defense presented their case over the next week. Character witnesses describing Catherine as a devoted mother and social worker. Thomas's co-workers talking about his pride in his daughter. Carefully selected experts suggesting false memory syndrome, trauma-induced psychosis, a dozen ways a mind could create conspiracy from coincidence. They couldn't explain away the physical evidence, so they didn't try. Instead, they normalized it. Yes, Thomas nailed windows shut, but he'd been frightened by break-ins. Yes, Catherine researched poisons, but she was writing a novel. Yes, they had insurance policies, but what responsible parents didn't? The prosecution wants you to see monsters, Hartman concluded in her closing. But I ask you to see human beings, flawed certainly, perfect no, but not killers, not the calculating demons painted by a traumatized young woman whose mind transformed tragedy into conspiracy. Banks painted Thomas as a victim of both Catherine and me, caught between a manipulative wife and a disturbed daughter, making terrible choices from good intentions. Amanda's closing was passionate but precise. The defense wants you to believe in a massive coincidence, that 8 foster children just happened to die in these defendants' care, that windows just happened to be nailed shut before an accidental fire, that antifreeze just happened to appear in tea, that brake lines just happened to fail when a witness came forward. She showed photos of each murdered child. Kevin Murray, age 6, drowned. Lisa Chen, age 8, fell from a roof. Marcus Williams, age 7, house fire. Amy Patel, age 5, poisoned by accidentally ingesting antifreeze. David Kim, age 9, car accident. Jennifer Nguyen, age 4, suffocated in her sleep. These children trusted the defendants, called them mom and dad, believed they were safe. The defendants betrayed that trust for money. They turned love into a weapon and family into a slaughterhouse. Sarah Crawford sits before you alive because she stopped trusting, because she questioned, because she fought back. Don't let her survival be in vain. Give her the justice these 8 children never got. Find the defendants guilty of murder. The jury deliberated for 4 days. 4 days of agony wondering if 12 strangers would see through the elaborate lies. Grace held my hand as we waited. Robert paced. Amanda reviewed everything obsessively. On day 3, they asked to hear the 911 recordings again. Good sign or bad, no one knew. On day 4, word came. Verdict reached. The courtroom filled quickly. Catherine sat perfectly still, confident to the end. Thomas slumped, already defeated. I couldn't breathe. On the count of murder in the first degree of Kevin Murray, we find Catherine Walsh guilty. We find Thomas Walsh guilty. Guilty, guilty, guilty. 16 times for each defendant. 8 murders, my attempted murder. Jessica's attempted murder. Conspiracy charges, insurance fraud, child abuse. Guilty on all counts. Catherine didn't react. Not a flinch, not a tear. Thomas put his head in his hands and sobbed. Around me, families of victims embraced, cried, finally had answers. Judge Yamamoto scheduled sentencing for the following month. As court officers led my parents away, Catherine turned back one last time. She smiled that same empty smile from jail and mouthed 3 words, simple math vein. Even in defeat, she refused to see me as anything more than a failed investment. But I was more. I was Sarah Crawford's survivor. Voice for the silenced. Living proof that evil could wear a parent's face but still be defeated. The verdict wouldn't bring back 8 children, wouldn't undo 24 years of manufactured life, wouldn't restore the family I should have had. But it was justice. Finally, definitively justice. And sometimes that's all survivors can hope for.